this is actually kind of cool. This guy, I think, is a wrestler. It's kind of a cool window into Dave Mustaine's influences. Like, do you know much about Diamond Head, Dryden?
Is that so? That's that band that has that song "Am I Evil?"
Am I Evil?
Yeah, Metallica has a big cover.
Right. So I didn't know much about them, but they talk about anyway. That stuff like that is why I thought this was really cool and interesting. So let's watch some of it.
One of the first records I picked. Any self-respecting metal fan that knows anything about Dave Mustaine or Megadeth or Metallica, for that matter, knows how important Diamond Head was. They were called the natural successors to Led Zeppelin and NME. I mean, that to me that's quite a compliment. So I loved the music because
this dude who's the host, I think, is like a wrestler or something. He's like a Canadian pro wrestler, I think.
Okay.
But anyway, this whole thing about Diamond Head, I had no clue. Like what he just said about them being the natural successors to Zeppelin and stuff. I had and actually it made me go listen to some of Diamond Head's stuff, and it's actually really killer. Like for that era, it's really heavy, you know?
Okay.
Because it was riffs and it's not chords. American songwriters were doing a lot of chord writing, and the European and predominantly the people in the United Kingdom were coming up with that riff. And a riff is simply something that is a melody that is played over and over and over and over again. So it has to be really good, or it becomes this monotonous droning. So Diamond Head was one of the first bands that I saw that played music that I understood, that I wanted to play. And when I was in Metallica was when we were basically discovering Diamond Head the most. Lars had spent a lot of time with the guys in Diamond Head. And
dude, that guy from Diamond Head even kind of looks a little like James Hetfield. Did you see that?
Yeah, he does.
He's like in the 90s era when James had like the lamb chops and stuff.
The handlebars.
And
yeah, the handlebars.
This was such an influential band to me and to the guys in Metallica that there's 7 songs on the back of this record. And on side A, it's Lightning to the Nations, The Prince, and Sucking My Love. And we played The Prince, we played Suck.
That's not a bold euphemism or anything, is it? Sucking My Love? Yeah. I wonder what that's about.
Sucking My Love. And on side B, it's Am I Evil? Sweet and Innocent, It's Electric, and Helpless. And we played Am I Evil, we played It's Electric, and we played Helpless. There's 5 songs off of this record that we were playing in Metallica, and a lot of people thought those were original songs because, you know, we weren't rightly going out there and explaining to everybody, hey, these songs are great, and you're probably going to think they're ours, and we're not going to tell you that. We're going to give credit to where credit's due. Nah, we're going to be quiet and make you think we're really great, and so that's kind of how Diamond Head came on my radar and why I like these guys. And
thoughts, guys?
That's awesome. I remember when I first started playing guitar and getting into metal. Obviously, Metallica's everyone's pretty much their first go at it, just listening to metal in general, and Am I Evil was one of those. It's really easy to play a lot of that stuff with the power chords and stuff, but it's also just a sick song to play and sing. It's pretty easy too. So and the lyrics, that song is pretty dark, the lyrics and shit for that time. So they're good. I don't know, I haven't really listened to a lot of their other stuff, but I definitely like that song, so I'll have to
I had to go listen to some of their other stuff, and I was impressed.
The only Diamond Head I know is what was on Garage Inc.
Oh yeah.
I know Diamond Head songs through Metallica. I've never listened to the Diamond Head versions.
Same. But Helpless is another one.
That's what I was thinking of.
Well, It's Electric. That's the one that they recorded that one on the newer side of the Garage Inc. albums.
Okay.
And then Helpless, Am I Evil, The Prince was another one. So
Well, the next album is a pretty obvious one, but this is pretty cool too.
Man,
Yeah.
vinyl number 2.
Another record I picked was Iron Maiden Killers.
So just to pause for a second here, this is one I've been listening to a lot lately because Paul Di'Anno passed recently, R.I.P. But I think we were talking about this before we came on, right, Dryden? There's a song on here that's like kind of like almost like the birth of death metal called Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
That's like an instrumental, but there's some breakdowns in it that are like some of the earliest, like closest stuff you get to like almost death metal, like really heavy, fast, like, or speed metal, whatever you want to call it, you know?
I had this friend of mine that was working at Musicland, and she would trade me new records for dime bags of pot.
That's an even trade.
Yeah, it's about $10 a record,
Yep.
right? So I'm a pretty entrepreneurial
Maybe the
guy.
most rock and roll transaction of all time, Dave, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. $10 to start all this. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's awesome.
So anyways, I digress. I got this Maiden record, and I remember it, pretty much the same thing like the next record I'm going to talk about. When I dropped this record onto the turntable, it was really mind-altering because, I hadn't heard anything like Maiden. Maiden for me was pretty much what I was looking for unbridled energy and songs that are kind of like the feeling you get when you listen to Judas Priest's.
Not to keep interrupting, but Steve Harris is so underrated too. Well, maybe he's not underrated, but it's crazy how like listening to Maiden now, like old Maiden, how like I really pay attention to what the bass is doing. And I mean, it's really Steve Harris's band too. Like I'm pretty sure he's like the guy who started Maiden for the most part. I know he writes a lot of the lyrics and stuff too, but
Ripper. Beginning, it started off with Ides of Wrath, and there's a lot of things that they talk about, kind of like Alan Parsons, the producer for the Pink Floyd records, and his record Tales of Mystery and Imagination. The songs are Edgar Allan Poe stories that he put to music.
Now, I know you were talking upstairs about the mascot. You guys have one. A lot of metal bands. How does that start? How do they come up with Eddie? How do you come up with that?
I don't know how they came up with Eddie, but I imagine that they've had kind of the same thing, just felt like they needed to have something that symbolized the band.
Yeah, it's such a cool thing. And like other kind of genres of music don't do that.
I didn't even like Maiden when I was a kid, but I had Eddie like posters and stuff because the imagery of Iron Maiden was so cool.
Yeah, look at you can kind of
Like
see
the
that
brand.
poster on my wall back there. It's got all the Maiden records with Eddie's
Yeah.
face on them.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I had Fear of the Dark poster just because I thought Eddie was cool. I thought the cover was cool. I
Yeah.
love that album now, but back then I wasn't even really that into it. Oh, this guy's asking if Metallica has copyrights for those songs. For the what's it called? Am I Evil and the songs that they recorded? No, they have to pay royalties to Diamond Head. I'm sure that's like one of the reasons they do it too. If they love the band that much, I bet Diamond Head gets more money from royalties Metallica makes on their songs than
For
they get from
sure.
their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We've probably talked about this before, but it's just such a great story. I always have to bring it up. But there, Jay-Z and Kanye West used a sample from the band Roxy Music on their song No Church in the Wild. I think that's what it's called. But anyway, the guy from Roxy Music came out and was like, yo, I made like $500,000 last year from that sample. Like I make more money from Kanye West and Jay-Z sampling my songs than I ever made on my own music.
That's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, but it's also cool. Like to me, it's like, wow, it's really cool that these rappers are like digging up old music and giving it new life, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. It's like a really good thing to do for someone
Right.
like Roxy Music is like a legendary band. They put out a ton. They've been so influential, and the fact that they're not like comfortably retired and just like happy, you know, the fact that Kanye West and Jay-Z making them all that money is like it's just, it's good. I think it's good. It's good for music in general.
Right.
And a lot of people get like those rappers and artists get hate for it too. Like there was a meme going around with Kanye West saying he hates guitars or something. And I'm just like, dude, where did he say that? That's just someone just wrote that on the internet,
Yeah.
Like I've never heard Kanye would never say that. Like he's a music lover, They would be like, I don't like that instrument. Anyway, let's see what else he has to say about Killers.
A lot of thrash metal, heavy metal bands had that, and I think it's iconic. I can remember having an Iron Maiden T-shirt with Eddie on it and an Eddie poster flying a plane on my wall when I was a kid. And I just thought it was the coolest. Cool, yeah. Ace's High, yeah. And I can't, I just thought it was the coolest thing, and I didn't know why. It's such a cool thing. It's such a massive part of rock and roll.
It is. And, when you look at other bands that have had mascots, a lot of them are hit and miss. You look at the mascot that Slayer had, the Wehrmacht guy. People liked that.
You told a story upstairs about you going as Eddie.
He's always got to take a shot.
You gave a bunch of the details, but I definitely.
What's that?
Dave's always got to take a shot at another band.
Oh, dude, he totally does on the dude. I'm glad you said that because the next couple records he does like say some shit. He does talk some shit. It's the good old Dave Mustaine that we know and love.
Yeah.
So you're gonna love this one because it's AC/DC.
Great.
And he talked anyway. I'm just all
the next album, vinyl number 3.
Next album, jeez, it's almost bedtime. AC/DC, Let There Be Rock. So this is the very first record I got from my girl over at the record store. And I went home, and like I said, I've been listening to you.
I do like the cool little like sidebar things they throw in on here. I don't know if you've noticed that. They have the little like notes. They're like when Dave said he traded his dime bags for albums. It's all due to inflation. Like this little pop up came in. It's all due to inflation. The same dime bag would be $31.08 today.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really great stuff. But my world had not been completely rocked yet. I had never had my world rocked. And when this record came out, it was the first time. And it hasn't happened since very often. It happened when Appetite for Destruction came out.
Good.
It happened for us with Countdown. Happened for Metallica with the Black Record. Happened for Soundgarden with Loud Love. These are all bands that have singers that have voices. And have some.
It's so Dave Mustaine of him to like throw his own record in there.
Yeah. It's like it happened with us.
I mean, Countdown to Extinction is a great album. Like, don't get me wrong. I love Dave Mustaine's just brute confidence.
I feel like that John 5 interview we were watching, I feel like I appreciate musicians, especially metal musicians, more who are just humble. Like we know you're a legend, Dave Mustaine. Yeah. You don't need to prove it to us. Like we know, dude. That album's obviously great.
You wrote Holy Wars.
Yeah, so it's like
you wrote Hangar 18, man.
I just feel like it's a little bit insufferable. Like anytime, even on Joe, any interview I watch, he's bashing Metallica or some band or whatever. And it's like,
to be fair,
it just shows insecurity,
Yeah. To be fair,
that's one of the reasons. And Dryden, you might not have ever heard me complain about that, but like the reason I never got into Megadeth is just I wish he was just like confidently Megadeth, instead of looking back all the time or trying to compete. It's like, just be you, dude. Like, you're amazing.
Yeah.
Joey, have you ever heard of Mark Manson? He wrote a book called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have you ever heard of this?
I think I've heard of that, yeah.
So there's a chapter in that book about Dave Mustaine and this exact subject. It's like,
really?
And his whole thing is like, he's like, look at Dave Mustaine. He's like, Dave Mustaine's the greatest example of a guy who has monster success, but still views himself through the lens of Metallica.
Yeah.
And like in competition with Metallica, just because he's not as big as Metallica, he's like obsessed with that. And he views himself as like a failure, even though Megadeth is like widely regarded as one of the best metal bands of all time. And has put out several fantastic records and been nominated for Grammys and all this stuff. So totally right.
They
Yeah,
won a
it's
Grammy.
wild.
Yeah. Didn't they just recently won one, right?
They won a Grammy pretty recently, yeah, in
Yeah.
the past couple of years. But yeah,
Mhm.
Something.
I don't have
knew
Metallica.
when
I
I
don't think
heard this that
Metallica's
these
won a
guys were
Grammy,
gonna-
have they?
I'm sure they have.
I'm pretty sure they have. I think they did for like S&M or something like that.
Maybe you're right.
That Megadeth, when they won a Grammy though, when he was going up to get his acceptance,
played
speech, they were playing
Metallica,
Some troll at the Grammy Awards.
Yeah, someone knew. There's no way that was an
That's
accident.
such a
funny,
dick
but it's
move.
low.
Some troll at the Grammy Awards like play Enter Sandman when he walks up. Like, dude. All right. Well, he does kind of shit talk AC/DC a little bit right here, but it's also he just says what everyone else pretty much thinks anyway.
Massive. And I'm just a kid at the time, so I don't know that I've got this gift to be able to hear music and know the bands that are going to be making it and the bands that won't.
Yep.
And
But you knew that was something special.
This is
the first time you heard it.
Yeah, absolutely. This was probably the purest, most rawest form of speed and adrenaline that a person could possibly ever get without physically ingesting any kind of a substance. So, yeah, I loved this record. I remember I became such an AC/DC fan that I had every version of every record you could possibly get, every different release, different versions of the same exact album, just because the song order is mixed up. I was in.
Yep.
And the last time that I did anything with AC/DC, we did this tour with them. And, AC/DC doesn't have to pay anybody to tour with them, so they paid us $5,000 a show. And we ended up going almost $200,000 in the hole to do this. And
AC/DC is a band, like I was drawn to them immediately too. The first time I heard them, and I've always wanted to have one of their songs as my walkout music for wrestling. It's never happened.
This is actually really funny.
Who is this guy, by the way?
I forget his name exactly.
He looks like a tattooed Woody Harrelson.
There was a minute when I was watching, I was like, this could be me if I just like took a little bit more protein and like had a Canada tattoo or something like that and shaved my beard off. No, his name's like Scott something. He's a wrestler from Canada. I forget. I'll get his name after this when I can fold this up, but this is pretty funny because he's like telling Dave Mustaine about, and like you can see this question. Dave Mustaine's like, I fucking don't care. Like he's like, I always wanted this song for my ring music, and Dave Mustaine's like, Jesus Christ, this is the dumbest question I've ever.
Because it costs money and it's they don't want to use it. But if you say Dave Mustaine was a pro wrestler, or maybe you're in some big jiu-jitsu match and you get to choose any song. Could be one of your own, could be one from AC/DC, could be one from Diamond Head, anybody. What's Dave Mustaine's walkout music?
Hummingbird by CC Croft.
That's a great choice. That's a great choice.
I don't know.
Isn't that's like the greatest?
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer.
He's like, I don't give a shit about wrestling walkout music. What are you talking about, dude?
That's a good answer. It's a good answer for me. I know I always wanted it to be Hell's Bell.
I mean, that is a good wrestling walkout song. I'm not gonna lie. If I was gonna be a pro wrestler, that's
fire shooting everywhere.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one.
AC/DC song. It's perfect walkout music. As soon as you hear it, you're fired up. The adrenaline starts pumping. That's an amazing choice, an amazing album. All right, what's
Eric Young? That's his name. Eric Young. Let's Wikipedia him real quick because I don't really know all that much about him. Yeah, here you go. Canadian professional wrestler from TNA.
Huh.
Is that Putin or is that him?
Is that Putin over here? Yeah. Does look like Putin. Anyway. So I think I wanted to hear he says he kind of shit talks AC/DC.
Cat Stevens. No, not Cat Stevens.
I wish it was Cat Stevens.
Cross, yeah. Cat Stevens changed his name, right? Yusuf.
Yeah, Cat Stevens is easier to say for Americans.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Well, he was a big sex symbol in the '60s and '70s, and I guess he quit, and then he tried to come back and make a new record under his new name, and people forget, and
Cat Stevens changed his name to Yusuf Islam. Like he I guess he like became Muslim and like changed his name. So just so you know.
And John Cougar Mellencamp, right? John Mellencamp.
Yep.
John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yep.
The one he didn't try is Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah.
Or he could have just called it Cougar Camp, and that's a whole nother thing, right? Yeah,
It's a whole other
it's an after show. Does your dad listen to this one?
Yeah, he does.
So there was a point, maybe I missed it, but there's a point where he's kind of like says something about AC/DC putting out the same album over and over. I mean, maybe it was like a quick pass, but okay. So the next one is a Zeppelin record.
I liked this album for so many reasons.
This is one of my favorite.
What they say that this is supposedly from, there was a pass that went underwater from the Great Britain island over to the Irish island. One of my favorite songs, it's on this record, was Dancing Days. I remember when Led Zeppelin came around, it was the last time that they toured while John Bonham was alive, and I had heard the song Remains the Same live album, and I thought, these guys aren't playing good anymore. Who am I to say, I'm just some little wet behind the ears guitar playing kid that's just starting, and Jimmy's the Dark Prince. I had my reasons, and he wasn't playing good, so I didn't go. Great record, love this band. It's funny though, I've never really been able to make a connection with Jimmy. We've talked several times, and I know he's a friendly person, but I've just never been able to connect with him.
Connect with the music though. Led Zeppelin.
Love the music.
Okay.
His guitar playing.
I was like, did I skip one? Because he talks about Def Leppard too.
A lot of different layering of guitars.
Yeah.
And as far as songwriting is concerned, there's several songwriters in that band. We did a cover of a song called Out on the Tiles, which was written by the drummer, of all people. And it was a very strange song, had really weird time signature. So that was part of the challenge, to do the song and not to mix up the song. It was the fact that the time signature was so bizarre.
All I need from you is all your love.
Led Zeppelin was my dad's favorite band.
Yeah.
He absolutely loved them. I grew up with
Thanks a lot.
So Dave Mustaine gets all upset. He's like, "Oh, is your dad like this band?"
Does your dad listen to this one?
Yeah, he does. It's out at the top 5.
I don't like you anymore.
Vinyl number 5. What's this is Def Leppard, right?
All right, Def Leppard, Pyromania. When I first heard Def Leppard, the record that I liked was the On Through the Night record. They had the song Rock Brigade, and that was just the song that kind of summed up our little group of guys. We hung out, what we were doing, what our hopes were. Nobody knew what was going to happen at the time. Nobody knew this was going to last or even make it. For some crazy reason, we got lucky and made it. But listening to the On Through the Night record, those first songs I played in my band Panic before I was in Metallica. There was a song called Wasted we played, the aforementioned Rock Brigade we played. It Could Be You was one of the ones we played, and It Could Be You was a very bizarre song. And I think that kind of helped influence our song Chosen Ones, because it's a kind of a weird time signature like that too. They had a guy named Pete Willis. They let this guy.
I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's good.
And it made me go back and listen to, like, Def Leppard is one of those bands. I loved Def Leppard when I was like 10, because that was like the era of like Pour Some Sugar on Me and, Love Bites and stuff like that. But I never really listened to their stuff before that album, before Hysteria. A little bit of Pyromania, but apparently it was heavier, like better, like more. They kind of went pop, I guess,
Well, the drummer has one arm.
Yeah, I mean, you give him credit, He had to do what he had to do. Rick Allen is his name.
How did he lose his arm? I've always wondered that.
In a car accident.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm pretty sure.
Car accident.
Yeah.
So he was a 2-arm drummer in Def Leppard, and then
he originally did have 2 arms when they started, and they kept him in the band.
Well,
even after he lost
cool.
one of his arms. So that's like heroic on its own, you know?
Yeah.
There's a band called the Bloodhound Gang. Do you know them?
No.
They had that song that's all "You and me, baby, ain't nothing but mammals, so let's do it like we do on the Discover." That was like their big hit. But they have a song where they're just like, the drummer from Def Leppard only has 1 arm. The drummer from
The drummer from the Vipers only got 1 arm. The drummer from the Vipers only got 1 arm. The drummer from the Vipers